Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I got another little quick bites video for you. This is a follow-up to my previous video talking about whether you should join a startup or a large company. A while ago, I read this article that I can't remember for the life of me. I can't find it. If you know of it after hearing me talk about it, please link it to me because I'd love to reread it and refresh my mind. Because right now I'm just gonna be speaking from memory. It was this article talking about the 4 phases of a company and the 4 types of employees that those phases attract. And I found it very illuminating and kind of helpful when I was trying to figure out what company I'd want to join. The first entry phase of a company's life is a startup. No surprise there. And in this article I read, it likened it to, it was a whole war metaphor, for better or for worse. If I could adopt it to something else, I would, but this is the metaphor. And it likened it to a army trying to get an initial foothold in a foreign area where you sail your boat up to a sandy beach and there's just wilderness all around you. And everything is uncertain and nothing is guaranteed. And the types of employees that are attracted to this early stage are those that have a huge temperament for risk taking. They have a huge desire for the unknown. They really are curious to discover things for themselves. They need to explore on that beach all the land around them. They need to figure out how they can get food, how they can make shelter, how they can live there in some semblance of comfort. Everything is, by and large, very uncomfortable. You're eating ramen, as a startup would say, all the time. But that's what those types of employees thrive on. That's the first stage, a startup. It's just raw, hard, but thrilling. The second phase is the growth phase, let's say. This attracts a new type of employee. And often when these phases occur, the employees from the previous phase sometimes leave because they actually don't desire or enjoy the new mentality required for the new phase of that company's life. So the second phase, the growth phase, is one where they build on the success of the first phase, the startup phase, where they have a way to make food already. They have beds, they have some shelter. And that's all things they can take for granted, these new stage 2 employees, but there's still a lot of work to do. They are in no means modern. They are no means fully safe. Like there's a perimeter that wild animals could just walk into and cause you harm, such as when a big customer that you depend upon for the success of your company decides to end their contract. That's hugely life-threatening. So there's still a lot of risk in this phase, but a lot of the early, hard, almost impossible ideas have already been taken care of you. So this phase 2 employee are ones that do enjoy risk-taking, but they don't really enjoy like impossible risk-taking, to say in that way. They do want to be part of the journey to figure out the identity of this company. They still have to figure out how to farm in a sustainable way for many generations to come, whereas the first phase was just making sure they could eat and not die of starvation. So second phase, still desirous of risk, but not as much as the first phase. And they're part of this phase of just growth of that startup. The third phase, we'll call it expansion, and they build upon obviously the second and first phase. So the second phase, they kind of end that phase getting things to be pretty solid. Things are mostly safe. Things are mostly known. And this third phase is one where they can take all the decisions and behaviors made in the first and second phase and try to expand it as far as they can go. So they had a beachhead in the first phase of startup. Second phase, they've now carved out a nice little settlement. And now this third phase is potentially to make their first city, right? And so to speak, to actually build up a thriving, modern environment that has advanced processes for doing projects, that has very much larger customers, and it has processes for the employees as well. So the employees that come in this third phase are those that don't really like risk, don't need it, don't want it, and they enjoy the challenge of taking the prior successes and applying it again to new successes. There's still things to discover. There's still some things that are not yet finalized. It's also the business itself might be changing to adapt to the new customers they're trying to acquire. But this phase 3 is just, a little bit more comfortable, but everything's not decided yet. So, the 4th phase, we can call it maturity. You can call it also enterprise. But this is where there's a city already made, and now it's like, let's do it again. Like, we have this down, let's keep doing it, let's keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the types of employees that typically come to phase 4 are those that just don't want any risk at all. There's a playbook, we can run with it, we can learn, we can grow with it, and we can execute it. This is the employees where you can now start specializing in certain discrete focuses, because now you have all this base of operations. You have multiple cities that you can depend upon. If one city gets into trouble, you can ask for help, and there's this whole support system that you can rely on, such that the risk at this phase is very, very small. The stability is very, very high, and these types of employees are ones that like that. I would also say that in phase 4, there will be probably very, very few phase 1 employees still with that company. There'll be a handful, in my opinion, or just in fact. Phase 2, probably a little bit not as uncommon to still stick around, but phase 3 and phase 4 are not too dissimilar. Phase 4 is just the length of time you've now established this whole running business ecosystem. So that's the 4 phases, 1, 2, 3, 4, startup all the way to a mature enterprise company, and the types of things you can kind of mentally think about what the company itself is going through and what that will ask of its employees when going through that phase. And it's also interesting for you to reflect your own company you're in. Which phase are they in? 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's a good framework to kind of think about what challenges the company may be facing, and then what you as an employee will have to help out the company in that respect. Because it's a relationship, a working relationship. So it's interesting to have, it's like therapy for businesses, I guess. So hopefully you found that interesting. I'd love to see if you have any other related thoughts to this, because this is I don't know what it's called. I'm sure there's a word for it. I'm not smart enough to know what it is. But hopefully this kind of gives you some ideas about how companies and people work together to make work happen. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I'll see you again with a new video next time in your feed. Until then, stay happy, stay coding.